Good evening, everyone. It's a cold, cold day and the wind has been howling. And so it's a part of nature, and we'll just hunker down and take it like a man and a woman should. I'm going to deal again with you from the 23rd chapter of the book of Proverbs. Unusual in here. It really is. It's a father who's instructing in not a roundabout way, a straight way, of how to get through life and be decent and successful. It's full of warnings. It's full of practical stuff. When you look at the material, you'll see the pain and the sorrow that's in the world right around us when this is not applied to life. It's simple. It's understandable. It deals not deep theology. It's just the practical things of raising your kids and giving them the right kind of background and the backdrop to it. Last week, he dealt with some unusual stuff. If you remember in the 23rd chapter, he talked about the goofiness, the silliness of sitting down in front of a ruler and trying to work his way into that particular field of life. And he said you might as well put a knife to your throat, cut your throat. That's what you're doing. If you do that in life, you'll be cutting your own throat. It was your fault, and you didn't pay any attention. You just meandered through it, etc., and so on. And do not wear yourself out to get rich. We dealt with that, how people just spend their whole life and they never make it happen. Never make it happen. And yet that's what they live for. Or if they do find something, it's not productive. It doesn't make a living. So they're stressing that. See, the plain literature. Do not eat the food of a stingy man. Do not crave his delicacies, for he's the kind of man who is always thinking about the cost. In other words, his whole story is there. If you really think that you can deal with that sort of thing, before long, when you figure out they really don't want you there, then the joy you thought you were having with them, you're uncomfortable, and you know you're uncomfortable, and they will give you different ways to find that out. Isn't that something to tell it to a child? It certainly is. It certainly is. I mean, where do you start with? So anyway, eat and drink, he says to you, but his heart is not with you. You will vomit, you'll vomit the little you have and still have wasted your compliments. Do not speak to a fool, for he will scorn the wisdom of your words. We talked about that in a practical way. You can just argue so far with someone and they don't get it. They're never going to get it. They're grained into it, and you're wasting large pockets of time. I have something more to say about that after all. So do not move the ancient boundaries. He's talking about being honest, straightforward. It belonged to someone else. Don't be a thief like that. Don't cheat. Be careful. And right now, as I look around, think of all the ways that people who are like that find a way to cheat. And you wouldn't think it, how subtle it can be. For instance, we were just talking about yesterday, getting these bales of hay. And there are a lot of hay out there, but it's real saggy. It looks good, and it's this, but if it's baled right, really packed right, there's that much more in there. So people just cheat on that. It's like the old butcher you used to hear about that have his thumb on the deal while he was weighing your weight for you. It also talks about that in the script. They find 100 ways to cheat you. You know what we're talking about. And doesn't that frustrate you in life? It just burns your heart because it's so nasty and angry. You just anger at it all the time. Whew, what a deal. So now, do not move. So he's keep your life straight on the fields of the fatherless. You don't take advantage of poor people. We talked that last week. You can get it from them. You can milk them down till they just have to give it away to survive. But that is ungodly, and that is not right. It is not right at all. And one of these days, I'm going to do a whole thing on money and do some really good stuff with it and talk to you how that applies in 100 different ways to life and how you can protect yourself from being that way. What he's saying, just get your heart right. Apply your heart to instruction and your ears to the words of knowledge. In other words, get into things that give you some sort of intellectual need so you can think and meditate, and we dealt with that. Do not withhold discipline from a child, and this is where we found out it's all right to be strong and straight as a parent with your child. You have to be kind, but discipline must be there. It is altogether different in the world right now. I'm watching children about this high run the whole atmosphere. Everything is turned to them, protecting them from this, and whatever they want, they just whine or cry, and we ooze it down. When maybe just a good old outside, a few moments of endangered species pumping on the little hiney bow might do them way more. When they start screaming at you and scrouching at you and test you to the last thing, when you say don't touch that and they slap, I can tell you right now, you're doing no healthy spiritual service for that child whatsoever. And it's only, as they say in bad English, going to get worser. Because he's out thinking you. He now knows how to maneuver. You see that everywhere. Poor little Leroy. Well, Leroy can cause you lots of grief. He'll pass that on when he goes to school. You'll just keep picking it up in tidal waves. And that is so he says, don't do that. Don't be afraid to discipline. It's a good thing. It's a kind thing. It's not mean. It doesn't blow. And it just knows how to do it. There are many ways to get that done. But anyway, get it done. Now, in verse 17, do not let your heart envy sinners, but always be zealous for the fear of the Lord. You think that wouldn't be too hard to understand, but you know what? I know at least without going there, 2 or 3 times in David's own life, of course, it's Solomon, but it's David's own life, he just felt like giving up. It looked like the bad guys were getting all the grub. They were winning. They were never being punished. I know at least 4 times in the scriptures he dreams that up. He dredges it up, and then he has to shake his head and get it straight again. But it looks like they're winning, and so it's just easy to fold and crumble. And what he's telling him here, no, do not do that. Do not do that. So, my son, if you're wise at heart, then my heart will be glad. My innermost being will rejoice when your lips speak what is right. Boy, don't you want to hear that out of your kids. When they cross that little line, they may have scared you, but when they break over and they do that, that is the greatest relief to our heart. And we know that our work has not been in vain towards them. Do not let your heart, we did that part. I missed it. There's surely hope for you, and your hope will not be cut off. What he's saying there is, they're hard times. Like Todd preached, they're really suffering times. But that's just one stage of your growth. And when you understand that you're going to have to get through that, and you will get through that, you just persevere. You remember who you are. Don't check out. Stay with it. And that moment in time, right at that moment when you need it the most, is exactly when God will send it to you at the right time. That's basically what he said. Do not listen, my son, and be wise, and keep your heart. What? Didn't we talk about that Sunday? Your heart. It's not the outer thing, it's the inner thing. Keep your heart on the right path. Now what? It's going to shift gears, and you're going to have to stay with me on this. We're getting down some real practical stuff. And this is a guy who knows about life. He's instructing his child, and he's going to sit down and talk to him man to man. Mano to mano. So going to sit down and talk life over with these children. What they're going to get in trouble for if they do that. Avoid that with all costs. So here we go, and it's odd, and I'm going to get it done. Do not join those who drink too much wine. Don't want to get in an argument about how much is too much, but I think I can handle that for you. Too much wine. And here's what happens if you do. Or guards, those who guard themselves on meat, for drunkards and gluttonous become poor. And I can't see that other word. Grouch, yes, etc. and so on. And their clothes are in rag. You know what he's saying here? I'll just break this down for you. It is simple. It's the party life. We're the party life. Just eat and drink, Let's go party while we're young. Do you absolutely understand while that is going on, how many alcoholics are bred up for that? All down through there. That is the never-ending journey you will take. And the hardest thing to do after developing horrible habits like that, or accepting them, or practice them, means you've created enough havoc to destroy lives around you. And to do that, he's really talking about destruction of the human character. That's how simple that is. If you like that and like the part, and you know what I think about? 99% of television now is about having happy times and booze and drugs and all that sort of stuff. And how's that work for our little country, by the way? Whoo. How many cities they're living on the sides of the road now? Got into it, don't know how to get out of it, got out worse and worse and worse. So he's talking about it's a pattern of pure destruction. It was a destruction in my home life, in my wife's life, so don't even go there with me. I just know all about that. Can't fool old Ray about that one. That's been a lived life. I'm thankful God pulled me out of that ditch, and my wife. Watch. No, on the other hand, and listen to your father who gave you life, and do not despise your mother when she is old. It is so easy to not have mom and dad in our life because we're just too busy with life. Do you know they understand when you don't always call? When they never hear from you, and it's for 30 seconds, and that sort of thing. Over a period of time, you know what that does to the people who gave you life? It hurts. They won't say it. They won't wound you, but it hurts. All you want to be, especially older people, is just acknowledged. You're there. You can listen to surely you can listen a little bit to their things they ache about and do this right here, and they can be eccentric away. But you look past that, and you remember when they were young and beautiful, and they birthed you, and they fed you. Don't stop loving your parents and not communicating with them. How simple is that piece of literature? Is that deep? That is so simple. So, buy the truth and do not sell it. Get wisdom and decline and discipline and understanding. In other words, I don't know where to go with that. That is so in-depth. But it's so simple. Truth, honesty, integrity is what he said. Develop integrity so it lives inside your veins. And do not sell it. Don't give it up. We just had a discussion this very day with a young man. Do not lie, do not cheat, and do not lie for somebody. I don't care who they are. If you lie for them, you will begin a journey that'll get simple for you, but it'll get deadly for you. And truth is the thing that wins out in the long run. Do not do that. Do not compromise that. So there you go. Truth. Do not sell it. What could you sell it for? Well, money. Jesus on trial, they sold it for money. You can go around the corner with all that. Buy the truth and sell it not. Get wisdom and discipline and understanding. In other words, maturity and growth and integrity are far better life. It produces far more for you. The father of a righteous man has great joy, but he who has a wise son delights him. The ones who put out that information is the counter thing. Their family lives in joy. They're all together. It's a breathable time in life, and they're happy. Mom and dad are happy. They don't have to worry about you. That's what he's saying. Don't make them like that. Don't make them sad like that. I got time for a story. I was watching a program years and years ago, and this young man, it was a Church of Christ story, so it was really a good one. You know how we all got to that age? Maybe not all. I did. Am I young? He went in the military and he was going overseas. And boy, if that is not the time that it'll test the waters of life. And he goes over there and he agrees to go out to a bar with these guys. And he didn't want to. And he drove all the way over there. And he stopped. And he said, I can't do this. I said, what do you mean? He said, it's 7 o'clock. It's Sunday night, and my mom and dad is walking to church tonight. I can't do this. And he walked away. That's what that's telling us. You got it? That's a beautiful story. Mom and dad's alive. He could have messed it up and done it, but he was so overwhelmed by his parents' life. Boy, if you've got parents like that, even those who are not doing all well, live that way towards them. That's all I'm going to tell you. I'm done with that. Watch. And it goes on to, it can drive that home more. I'm going to go back down to 26. My son, give me your heart and let your eyes seek my ways. Now watch what he does. Watch what he's just about to do. My son, give me your heart and let your eyes keep to my ways. And then look what he does. For a prostitute is a deep pit, and a wayward wife is a narrow life, a narrow well. You know, why would he do that? Because it's offered everywhere. It's the biggest trap in the world. And why wouldn't you sit down and talk to your son and your daughter? They may not pay attention to it, but they cannot ever say that mom and dad didn't give me the right information on this. Stay away from them. They're a dime a dozen. They'll destroy your life. You'll start breaking down every barrier of morality in your life. You got to be careful. Don't do that. It's a deep pit. It's a habitual thing. All right. Verse 28, like a bandage she lies in wait and multiplies the unfaithful among her. What does she do? Good night. Isn't that true? Who has woe? Who has sorrow? Who has strife? Who has complaints? Who has needless bruises? Who has bloodshot eyes? Those who linger on wine, who go to sample bowls of mixed wine, do not gaze at wine when it is red, when it is dark in the cup, when it goes down smoothly. You know what he's saying here? Now, I know the old arguments. I used to go to school. What is it all about? There's all kind of different wines. There's all kind of this. Paul told, who was it? A little wine for your stomach's sake. So it's medicinal. It can be medicinal. We've tried to argue every way in the world it was not real wine. That's not true. We can argue in 100 ways that's not true. So what do you do with that passage? The passage is, we sure don't need it for medicine anymore. So if that is the excuse, it's not a good moral excuse, but it's not, again, it's about self-control. The tragedy of it is, if duplicated over and over and over, it becomes a trap that you cannot get out of. And then you go into cultures who can't understand that, and you also have an obligation there to do the right thing in that culture. So my basic deal was to help you. In our home, after we were converted, we never had liquor there at all. Our children have to make up their mind on that. We talked about it, but the one thing I never wanted to happen is with the background that my family had and her family had with that stuff, never were they going to sit in the house and walk in and grab it out of daddy's deal and go in there and get started on it. Never going to happen. It's just not going to happen. And that is a good, safe journey. Again, not a total, deal. I got to be honest about that too. But on the other hand, there are safety mechanisms, especially when you have people who have propensities in the family. When it's run in your family so long and it's part of the nature. You just kind of have to back off and live a different life, even though you might say that's a free deal. Just don't. And if you do, be sure you're with people who understand that and are not part of that kind of thing. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not permitting or taking away, but liquor, booze, it just destroys. It wipes away. Now what he is, though, he's forbidding strong liquor. I will tell you that right away. That is forbidden. Don't do that. Do not do that. And it's serious about it. If you're thinking you can buy a whiskey jug and that's okay and what we're talking about, you are dead wrong, because this text is talking about that when it's like that. It is built for the content of getting you drunk. It is overlapsing with that. And even in old Rome, you would never believe it in a country like that. They thought it was abomination to drink more than just certain amounts of wine, that you were indiscreet, you were this, you were that. And even they had a moral compass about it, what about it could do. But I'm telling you right now, if you're a child of God and you're drinking that stuff, there is your verse. Stop it. Quit it. It has too much destructive power. In the end, here's why. It bites like a snake. It's poisons like a viper. Yes, it does. You know what it does? I just had one of my dogs get bit by a snake. I don't know how much was pumped in there, but I can tell you what, it set on fire everything in that dog. And now it's getting in the vein and it's got to get stopped, and it's pouring out of there. It's not a subtle deal, man. It starts swelling like this. If you don't have all the right equipment at the right time, you're probably not going to save it. If you don't know how to handle that, you're probably not going to save it. If it hits in the wrong spot, there's nothing you can do to save it. And so what we're getting is stay away from it. It has all those potential things, and all of them are bad. There's not one good thing. So take that one home. Isn't that something? That's what he's telling us something. No, here's the next step. Not only does that, but your eyes will see strange sights. And your mind imagine confusing things. You will be like one sleeping on the high seas, lying on top of the rigging. They hit me. Wait a minute. They hit me. I can't see that. You see it up there? Oh, it hit you, but you will say, I'm not hurt. They beat me, but I don't feel it. When will I wake up so I can stand for another drink? Okay, I'm going to end it with this simple story. I'm going to tell you one story about my life, one story about my dad's, and I will tell you how that verse applies right there. My dad couldn't get off of it. So when he got he couldn't cope with life, and so it just got worse and worse and worse. And I used to have to, you never know, he might be lying on the highway. You know where he was. He didn't even know where he was. And then wanting to be with my dad, you know how it is. We traveled together, both of us, in the wrong days. And my dad would say things. I've had people knock him down, which would make me fight, and we would get into that sort of thing because I was trying to love him and protect him, just wanted him so stinking bad. And you know what happened? I got to doing that too. I got drinking more, heavier and heavier. And you know what broke it? When I found myself, when they shuffled me from behind a filthy place behind one of these joints, I passed out there. I had no clue where I was, Todd. I don't even know how I got home. I laid in bed for 3 days. My goodness, can't you understand out there? Don't do that. It is such a waste of your purpose. It is such a waste of the potential you have. It blots everything out. You can't see straight. And to God's good glory, that so confounded me with my life that I knew I could never do that again. And I was managed to move my way off of that. And God came into my life. And to tell you the truth, it's never bothered me since. That's the way it is. Is that a pretty good story in the Bible? That's worth telling. It's worth hearing, isn't it? But more than that, it is worth living. Lord, I pray for all the folks that are struggling in that right there. Help them their journey out of it. Wake them up. Give them a new start. Do something in their life. It's overwhelming to us. And protect them from ever, as you've done our lives, not to ever do that again. And so, for you struggling out there with it, if tonight you have a sober moment, and you understand exactly what that said. You don't even know when you got home. Then, my friends, don't live like that. You don't have to. It's beneath you. It's too overwhelming to you. You've got a better deal when you can wake up with joy in the day. And you have friends around you that'll support you. That's what God does in His church family. When you make that move, it changes your heart and your friends and your destination. Thank you, Lord. Painful.